Hello, everyone, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Better the Pond Pondcast, the Flying V edition, where we talk to incredible people who are creating impact and ripples on the pond. My name is Warren Berry, and I'm your host and the founder of Instinctive Solutions, where we believe that everyone is an odd duck, but that is what makes them awesome. Now, today, my guest is Tara Proskiw, owner and CEO of Towne and Countree Cabinets in Edmonton, Alberta. Hopping on the energy bus with Tara, I discovered that Tara stands behind the statement of, let every moment in your kitchen be joyous. What I received from my conversation with Tara was so much deeper than that. I believe it was more of about, let every moment in your life be joyous, and how can I help? From her backstory of being a court stenographer and the adventures that it took her on, and from the lessons from her parents, Tara gets to better the pond to women entrepreneur groups, Rotary Clubs, and junior achievement groups. And well, to be honest, to everyone that she really comes in contact with. Hop on the energy bus with Tara and I and have a listen. Ladies and gentlemen, Tara Proskiw. All right. Well, Tara Proskiw, CEO, Towne and Countree Cabinets, all the way hailing from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I am absolutely honored to have you as a guest on the Better the Pond podcast.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting. You are my first podcast relationship.
First cut. This is the start of a beautiful relationship right here, right out of the gate.
There you go.
So we met. We have to give a little bit of a shout out. We met at a Tech Canada session with your chair, Deb Millamacca-Miles, which
Yes.
I call the Millikaliki Maca, but that's a whole other story. And yeah, so speaking to your group there, and through that day, through that speaking engagement, you were the person who had the biggest ahas, the greatest contribution, the most impact and input into that day, and therefore the victor, and now officially a guest on your very first Better the Pond podcast.
Well, thank you. It was a great day that I took a lot out of, and I've used a lot of the tools that you talked about. So it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, perfect. Right. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. All right. So before we talk about you, Tara, can you tell my listeners a little bit about Towne and Countree and what your company's all about?
Yeah, so Town and Country Kitchens was founded in 1978 for the Edmonton and area. Actually, they kind of targeted the farmers. They knew that farmers wanted high quality cabinetry that they wouldn't have to worry about changing out in 20, 30, 40 years. And it just grew from there. So we're small but proud and very strong in the community, and we've been around for I think it's 46 years now.
Wow. So there's definitely some longevity. That's really interesting. So it was actually originally created to help farmers. I would never have ever guessed that. That's so fascinating.
Well, so Town and Country is with the tree, Town with an E, and their logo used to be like trees. So we did freshen it up over the years, but it was very rustic and very clear that we were looking at that kind of natural farming community.
And so was there a natural transition to go from sort of that farming kind of community, and that was the company was based off that, to moving into more residential and get into higher end? And I know that you guys are all about high quality, high end, detailed work. So we think about the farming, we think about rugged quality. And if you look into the high-end residential, which I think you're more into, is more about look and style and detail and still high quality, but a totally different look.
Yeah, and I think, if you look at even the transition of farming, when I grew up on my farm, there was no cabs on tractors, and there's just been a real innovation of quality equipment, and so for us, it's that's a bit before my time, but
Mhm.
working with homeowners, that is cross-platform, whether you're a farmer or a CEO or Mr. and Mrs. Jones living in your home. We really like working with retail consumers. It's difficult, but it's very stable. You know, the peaks and the valleys of the Alberta economy, retail homeowners are living in their homes, and certainly COVID taught us that we want our home as our oasis.
Mm.
So I think it was a natural progression. We work with some select home builders, but retail is really where it's at.
Well, I see. Okay. So we do know the statement from Town and Country, let every moment in your kitchen be joyous. Tell me about that.
Well, I think when I myself look at the stresses of families and the pressure, the 24/7 lifestyles we have, and there's so many different, kids are at sports and,
Mm.
like there's just so many pressures that we really want through the process to bring joy and have fun in your project, regardless of how much scope we have in it. And so, from the moment you walk in the door, we've got snacks and we've got teacups on saucer, like the old school teacup and saucer. And it's kind of really about that experience.
Hmm.
And I think that, joy needs to be celebrated, but we're almost reluctant as people today to feel joy. We come in and we have these barriers and we have these walls up because we don't want to, get screwed over. And everybody's had a neighbor who's had a terrible renovation. So we just try to like bring the level down and the love up. And you can see that heart in the back of my wall there. And it's really all just about like that warmth and that, softer touch.
Hmm. That's very cool. I love that joy needs to be celebrated. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think, and if you think of your kitchen and your home, right, is a place of gathering, it's a place of family, it's a place of connection, right? It's sort of I kind of look at it as kind of the safe space because it's around food and
And
nourishment.
like the energy share and how was your day and the tears and the laughter and really the joy when we get together and make Easter dinner. Typically it's not just our own families. We're bringing other people in, and I think that is so profound that we want to make sure that it's done well and that it continues to provide joy. Rinse and repeat, right? For the next 30 years, you can have the joy is there.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So one last question for you is, if I'm a consumer and I'm looking at doing a renovation, I'm looking at doing, redoing my kitchen in my home, why Town and Country? Why should I come to you?
Well, one of the things is that you could have us do all of it. We found selfishly that we started a renovation division because we found that contractors weren't consistent. Their sites were typically not ready for us. And, one of the most important parts of the cabinetry business is your installer. So, if the site wasn't ready and I couldn't keep my installers working, like that's very challenging to navigate. So, we've really just become a one-stop shop. Not only do you have the ability for us to design for function and for joy and for beauty and all of that, but we can take out your cabinetry and make your space ready for your new cabinetry. And a lot of we found over the years that a lot of contractors don't want small jobs. We don't
Oh,
care. We don't care if you have the smallest little kitchen in a trailer. We'll take it out. We'll put it in. We'll love it. We'll make sure it's shiny and that you're happy. Um, so yeah, I've just kind of removed some of the barriers to success, and I hope reduce the stress for clients in this at the same time.
yeah, and I think I mean, I went through, when I went and went through my own renovation, of my house. No, I did a lot. I mean, I did all the demolition myself because I like that kind of stuff. But
Yep.
when I had the people that actually helped design, my kitchen and put it in, having somebody come in, right? And it was so amazing just knowing just the peace of mind to say when I come home and and there's boxes there, right? And like and everything was nice and clean and tidy where I didn't have to worry about what was going to get done and who was doing what and like there was I just knew that and with the company that I worked with was just so bang on and the peace of mind that was there and then of course the celebration at the end was like wow, this is amazing. So
Yep.
I think it's very impactful. And, I think with some contractors and, hate pointing fingers, but I think you're right. There's a lot of them, they don't want small jobs, or they don't show up, or they don't show up on time, or there's excuses. And there you are as the homeowner sitting there going, when's my kitchen going to get done? And now there's question marks.
Well, and you've got the heart of the home and the stress, and then the kind of the infighting that could happen with, he chose this contractor or she chose, or somebody's friends, cousins, brothers, mother, they'll do it for you for cash. Like there's just it's the worst industry for complaints to the Better Business Bureau.
Ah,
And I also selfishly want to protect our name and our investment. So if I've got someone who is gonna stand on the cabinetry to change the light bulb, like that doesn't work. So it's been really good for us, and it's really good for our clients.
love it. Amazing. All right. Now, Tara Proskiw, let's talk about you. So, all right, let's take you back. So I want to know what got you from being a gosling when you're hatched. I know that you were born at a very young age. So
Yeah, the young age of
where
1980.
where you started life, right, to
Yep.
leaving the nest. So when you actually, left the house, left home, either you left on your own, right, or there was a little gentle nudge, maybe a shove, possibly. We don't know. We're going to find out.
Yeah.
To where you are in this very moment today. So, Tara Proskiw, what is your backstory?
So I grew up kind of on a hobby farm west of Edmonton called Duffield, Alberta. I used to joke, if you blink, you miss it. Um, and school was K to 9, and then I moved I took the short bus to Spruce Grove for high school. My first post secondary was legal and real time reporting at NATE. So essentially a court stenographer. So I
Really?
took a 2-year program. Yeah, I was a court stenographer. I thought that it would be just amazing to know all of the nitty-gritty of the world, and I was wrong. But contrary to, everyone else, I graduated and I moved to Saskatchewan. And I lived in Saskatoon and Regina, and I did a lot of, unfortunately, like the Indian residential school cases.
Okay.
Lots of hearing about sexual abuse and offensive things. Um, and I did some of the really big coroner's inquests where um, there was some native gentlemen that had frozen, were dropped off and froze, and
Mm.
so there was national coverage, and I was the little reporter there. Um, and I am way too passionate to be a silent partner in business, and so I moved back to Alberta. I moved to Calgary. And then I got a gig working in the Arctic. I worked in Nunavut with the Nunavut Water Board, and I was a court reporter for the Jericho diamond mines. So, really weird because I never liked sleeping away from my house to everything I owned could fit in a car. And then I did that for a little while. I think I was a court reporter for about 6 years. I was good at it, but I was terrible because I was plotting revenge to all of the people that were wronged. So I met my husband and needed a stable job, and so I started over, and I started from accounts payable at a refrigeration company, and I thought I was going to need like money from my mom because I went from a career woman to accounts payable, which, and I changed my mind. Like that is a it's a good industry to be in. And then I worked my way up from seat to seat to seat. I ended up at a countertop company, and I stayed there for 10 years. And I am passionate about problem solving and people. And I went from part time in their showroom to the branch manager in year 7, and then I uh, resigned from there in year 10. I don't like being told what to do. And I don't like large companies where, people just are kind of a commodity. So I had sold countertops to Town and Country Kitchens for years and years and years. And I got along really well with the owner and liked his employees, and had an opportunity to come here as a GM with the intention of finding out if I could be a small business owner. And he was probably about 64 at that time. And he was trying to build succession to get out. So, yeah, so, fast forward, I've been here now for 6 years. I've been the owner for 2.5. Um, and yeah, just kind of bounced around a little bit.
Port reporter to CEO of a renovation and cabinet company. Clearly, you can see the connection.
Right?
So I have to ask you a couple of questions. This is fascinating.
Sure.
Now, you're the first court reporter that I've ever met in my life, so this is really interesting. So with the information that you received, of course, in a courtroom, and how did you manage to sort of put that at bay, stay focused on what you needed to do versus all the emotional things that were going on? Like, how did you separate yourself? Like,
Well, I think that that's part of the problem. So, like, I think through the schooling, it's like learning a new language. So the information is coming in, your brain is translating, it's coming out of your fingers. But one of the aha moments was I was in a case, and the person giving the testimony was crying, telling their story, and I'm detached and I'm planning my grocery list. So that was an aha moment for me that I don't, like, to my core, want to separate from that.
mm,
I don't want to be, like, disrespectful to the energy and to the experiences. And I just, I grew up very, very, well, I shouldn't say very, very. I grew up in a religious household, and
mhm,
that rocked me to my core. Hearing the Catholic priests and nuns, so that kind of wrecked me for formal religion. And I think it was coming out. I was starting to gain a lot of weight. I was eating a lot of food. I was lonely. It was just toxic.
mhm.
For me, it's great for other people, but for me, I'm too emotional. I care too much.
Right. I can imagine that'd be very difficult. And I could see too, it said, as you said, it was eating and gaining weight and those, because you're trying to, trying to keep it at bay, but it's just the toothpaste is out of the tube.
Well, and I think, I was 19. So
Oh
how
boy.
do you, like, I was pretty sheltered, right?
Mm,
I saw the most grotesque thing I ever saw or heard was, animals giving birth, not testimony of these things. So, yeah, and they don't teach you in school. You should go for counseling, or you should, like, have a rigid gym routine, or something to get rid of the energy.
mhm,
So I just was like, okay, I'm out of here. I need to change. The Arctic was great because I had adventures,
mhm.
flying from community to community. But yeah, it was just not the right thing for me.
Hmm. So let me take you back again to your humble beginnings
Yes.
on the farm, right in Duffield, Alberta. There was mom and dad and just you, or was there other siblings along with on the farm ride?
Yeah, I was the baby, and I have an older brother and an older sister, and we had like cows and horses and sheep and chickens and ducks. I can gut a chicken like you wouldn't believe. I can't handle blood or bruises. Like, don't show me, don't tell me. But if you give me a dead chicken, I can take care of
All right, so dead chickens noted. Okay.
it. Just in case you wanted that little nugget of
Yeah, that's a great
information.
little nugget right there. That's a takeaway right there. So, so your dad obviously, did you have grain farm or just more cattle farm?
It was like hobby, right? So we did nothing really well,
Mm,
uh,
okay.
other than growing a massive garden. But I think that he did plant crops. I think he had help taking them off. Um, he was not a great communicator. So we would, like, the cows are out or the horses are out, and I would immediately strip down and go into the tub and pretend I had a tummy ache. Like, that was my little safe space. Derek, get out of the bathroom and get down to the fence.
But give you a dead chicken and you're all in.
And I'm all in. Well, I think because I know it's already gone, right? I don't want it
Right.
to go to waste. So, I'll take care of it.
Uh, so um so growing up, so how old were you when you actually left the farm, when you actually went out on your own?
I think I was like 19 or 20 when I graduated. Um, yeah, so my parents divorced when I was 17, almost 18.
Okay.
So then we went from a beautiful farm with 80 acres to a two-bedroom apartment, me and my mom. I was like, "Oh my God, it's the downward slide." But then I think I had designs on marrying a Saskatchewan farmer. That was probably one of the reasons why I moved east, except court reporting is downtown in every single city. There is like no farms around there.
There's no farm court reporting. No.
No, I never really thought that through. But, whatever. I
It's
had
worth,
fun.
it's worth a shot. So,
Yep.
were your siblings, when your parents divorced,
Yep.
your siblings up and gone already? Were they?
Yeah, my sister was already, I think, engaged, and my brother wasn't really around. He kind of stayed in like a trailer on the property, so I was the one that had to deal with all the yucky stuff.
Fallout.
Yeah.
Then that's why you're so tough.
Oh, it's one of the reasons. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there
I
you
was certainly telling the old man how I thought. I was
go.
protecting my mom.
Well, so you heard all this court reporting stuff and all the nasty stuff, right? Then you're right, and now you're the tough one who has to try to go through all the fallout from the divorce, and there's Tara right at the helm, holding it all together.
Well, I felt like I had to be the strength for my mom.
Mhm.
She took care of us. She took us to all the sporting events, and I think that they were a mismatch from day one. But you know, I think you just at some point if you want to have a family, you kind of latch on to, or I shouldn't say latch on, but you partner without actually knowing maybe what they're going to be like.
Mhm.
So yeah, I was the rock for sure, and you know, I made sure that he knew that nothing was going to happen to her.
There you go. All right. So let's ask you this question. What is one lesson that your dad taught you?
Um, I think that like if you don't communicate, if you do not take care of your trauma,
Mm,
your life can fall apart and you can end up to be a lonely person. I think my dad got a shitty end of the stick. His childhood was quite traumatic. I think it's what I hear, but he kept everything inside. So what happens if you don't deal with it? You you might develop a drinking habit. You might partner with people who make you feel good in the short term. So I absolutely learned that if you hold it all inside, you know, I it's not good. I also know not to drink too much because I could have an addictive. I have genetically those addictive tendencies. So he ended up being an alcoholic. So I'm aware of that all of the time.
mhm. Okay. Just kind of taught you what to avoid, right?
Yep.
What did your mom teach you?
Um, it's like stoic, steadfast. She taught me, do not ever be beholden to a man. Do not make sure that you are independent. Make sure that you do not, um, kind of live in a space that is not good for you.
Hmm.
And charity. She volunteers all of the time. So I got my, I think, desire to serve from her.
Hmm. Okay. Awesome. So let's go back to the next question, and what's the greatest thing, positive or negative, right, that's happened to you that's ruffled your feathers, that really got underneath your skin, that was really challenging, and it's a positive or negative, and right, and how did you respond to that?
So I was promoted to a female manager position at one of my previous employers, and I was the only female. And what really ruffled my feathers was I didn't get invited to participate in the company trips. There was one time I was told that all the Vegas hotels were full. There was a fishing trip that I was not invited to that I actually, once I found out I wasn't invited, I went on that damn trip. Um, so I just felt, you've hired me and promoted me into this position, but you don't want me to participate.
Mm.
And so actually, and the other thing was, they had hired an executive coach for me because I wasn't fluffy enough. They loved everything about me. Don't change your work ethic. Don't change, who you are. But you're too intense. You're not fluffy. And I had modeled myself after my boss,
Mm.
who is, charismatic and all of those things. But I think the labels are different, and I think there probably was some shenanigans that they wouldn't be comfortable doing in front of me. So um, the inequality there like really pissed me off, and it was one of the reasons I left the organization.
So just on that note, why do you think they brought you in? I mean, it's an interesting dynamic saying you're the only female. So we bring you into the organization. So we like who you are, but then there's the but, and yet, yeah, you're not really part of. So,
So the reason they had me in the job was I was damn good at it. I can lead people. I can make sure that the sales are there. I can do all of the things. They just didn't want me in the extracurricular activities.
and you weren't fluffy enough.
Yeah.
That's good. Executive coach be fluffy. There's a new one.
Yeah.
All right, so this is unfolding. This is great. So now, as you know, because you were in the session with me with tech, uh,
Yes.
the geese fly 71% further and faster when flying in a V formation. So what are your thoughts on the secrets behind getting a team or getting an organization to fly with greater efficiency? What's how do you position teamwork?
So I think it's multifaceted. I lead consistently. I do not have mood swings at work. If I need a little bit of a space and I'm, maybe in a mood, I will kind of excuse myself until I can reset. And, you know, I, I empower them to give feedback. How is your day? How is your work? How are your stress levels? What can I do to help you? It is a collaboration. I hate titles. I hate ego. We do have to have a bit of ego, to be able to own a business and take the risks. But I know through and through that I am not successful without my team. And I truly use my past experiences as an employee to guide me into how I don't want to treat my employees. I don't want them to feel excluded. I don't want them to feel like they only matter if they're creating revenue. And as a wife and as a mom, I understand that there's shit going on everywhere.
Mhm.
So if I see changed behavior, I'm going to just have a conversation like, how are you doing, you as the person, not you as the employee?
Mm.
And then I'll help in whatever way I can.
So it's an interesting thing, and one of the things that I talk about when, as you were there speaking, is saying, in nature, when one goose goes down, two more will always go with it, and they will stay with it until it gets back to health to join the flock. And that's kind of what I just heard you say is that when somebody's having a bad day or they're just off, something's not right, is actually go in and actually sincerely check on them as they are as a person, not as the employee.
Fundamentally, like, yes. We all need to be seen, we all need to be heard, we need to be supported, and we need to celebrate, we need to bring joy. So I see my role, I am the energy provider, and I want to empower everyone to be honest about where they're at. If you had a fight with your spouse, if your dog has cancer, like, there's so many things. Or life is hard, interest rates, inflation. You have to renew your mortgage as if that's not terrifying.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's not, I can't just pay for everything.
Hmm.
So it's kind of sitting in the quiet moments and like, okay, here's some things. Have you tried this? Can we look at this? And sometimes it's just listening.
Hmm. Yeah, see, so we got a new title. So that the CEO. So now you're the chief energy officer.
Right. But legit, I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Energy Bus.
I've never read
Um,
the energy bus.
so I am an avid reader. There are people who provide energy, and there are energy vampires.
Hmm.
If you are an energy vampire, you are not allowed in my circle. Unless it's like you've turned something tragic has happened and you've gone from positive to negative, then I'll try to figure it out. But
Hmm.
there's, we all know that friend where you've been with them and then you go home and you feel like you have to shower to get that stuff off.
Yeah.
I'm very careful about who I allow around me and my employees.
How small is your circle, Tara?
Well, so my personal circle is quite small,
Hmm.
and I've done that intentionally. I found in the past that sometimes I like to have friends so I could try to fix them, and I think that fed my ego.
Hmm.
So I'm very careful. I do have organizational friends, which are truly treasures to me. But my core is my husband and my two children.
Yeah, it's interesting. I always say that energy is everything, and it's kind of an interesting thing is that being very selective on who you let in your circle, right? And because the energy vampires, I mean, it's exhausting. Because it's a give take relationship, and when you're constantly giving because you're trying to do it for the right reasons, but all they do is taking, it's it can only last for so long, and if you try to hang on to it because you want to like them or help them, you become the rescuer, and now you become part of the problem.
Well, and I think we need to recharge our batteries.
Hmm.
I'm a part of some charitable organizations, and they fill up my battery while I'm with them, and then I have to go home and just sit in the hot tub with my husband and my kids, and like, okay, this is reset time.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Which leads me into the next question. That was a great prelude right there. So, what are you doing? What you and Town and Country to better the pond? What ripples are you creating out there in the world? How are you making the world a better place, Tara?
So I am so in love with I'm a Rotarian. I am with the Glenora Rotary Club, and we are the first female led organization that started, I think, about 33 years ago. Now it has expanded to include men, which is really important. But so I sit on two committees, committees, the community services and vocational services.
Mhm.
So we donate time, we donate money to bettering the community. I also am a supporter of UCAN Youth Services, which is an organization that helps at-risk youth.
Mm.
Um, I'm also hoping to partner up with Dr. Francischetti, and he's got a great initiatives on helping the homeless crisis that's here in our city. They're building some buildings to house. They go into the emergency room. Do you have a home? No. Do you want one? Yes. Okay. And then they started the triage to helping people um, get get housed and then have the resources to help themselves. So I can go on and on. My accountant says that I donate too much. Um, but and Junior Achievement, I've just partnered with them as well to be a part of their program. I believe that we need to give more than we take, and that I can also show my colleagues, my community, and my children how important it is to give back.
Mm. Um, just out of this just popped into my head. Why is it so important to you that you put all this effort in to help others?
It's in my DNA. It has been. I've been a volunteer since I was probably, I don't know, 6 or 7. It's just I truly believe that I'm here to serve, and it fills my cup. I feel it, and it gives me perspective. The things that I used to stress about and stay awake at night, not sleeping because I'm worried about this or this, I'm helping feed people. I'm helping people be protected. I'm helping educate women that are going back to school, like through donations, and I love the community. Some of my close friends are in their 70s and 80s now
Mm.
from Rotary.
Mhm.
So it feels so very good. And I think, you look at a lot of the miserable people in the world, if they could just donate some time, it might help.
Hmm. Yeah, everybody, it's funny if everybody just did a little bit, right? We'd get so much further. It's interesting this listening to you because what I'm piecing together is sort of looking back at your growing up, right? And seeing that if I may, it's, you from your dad, you kind of learned what not to do. And from your mom, you learn how to be independent and charitable. And those pieces sort of just kind of mesh and it became Tara. And that's why, I can just see that spark in you when you talk about giving and
Yeah.
helping, serving others. You light up, like your energy just completely changes. And so you're taking all, what you've learned and actually now putting it and applying it in the world.
Well, and I think when we look at removing the barriers to our lives, um, if we're unhappy, we tend to buy more stuff. We got clutter, so that affects everything. Plus, then you don't have all the money. And I'm trying, and because I'm passionately reading about improvements and leadership, you almost try to like you find the best recipe that works.
Hmm.
And my poor husband, I'm like, oh, I have an idea, and I think he just braces for like, oh my God, you're buying another company, or you're starting another organization, or what committee have you joined?
Yeah.
But it lifts me, and so yeah, it's beautiful. I encourage more people to do it.
Mm. One of the let's pop this in here because one of the people I had on my podcast was Stan Pauls from Decor.
I love
And
Stan.
I love Stan, the fifth hammer. We got to give him a shout out. But when I watch, and I'm not trying to take this away from you, but it's interesting is the work that also Decor Cabinets has done, right, in helping others and servant leadership, and I see that same pattern with you, on the really being very passionate about serving and helping others. That's really interesting.
Well, I think so. I'm not privy to all of the work that they do, but I know Stan is amazing. And so I can imagine that it is profound. I think that that's one of the reasons why I have such a kinship with Decor, because they really empower their employees to be themselves and those 1% efficiencies. And they do, it's not lean, uh, it's where they collectively get to lift each other up, and as employees you bring it to the organization. I think if we do this will get better, and so it's very collaborative,
Hmm.
and mirrors what I'm doing here.
Yeah. So I see the synchronicities between the two of you. That's probably why you get along so well, right? You're just both
They're so
on the same
lovely.
trajectory. Yeah, absolutely. So my next question to you, and I'm gonna alter this slightly. The question is, what's one lesson that you've learned to share with an entrepreneur starting a business today? But I'd like to shift it a little bit for you, because I can see how passionate you are. With you're celebrating women entrepreneurs. You're with the Rotary. You said it was only women's only club, so you're really passionate about that piece. So, something that you've learned along the way that you would actually help a female entrepreneur starting a business today.
So I would say that don't be afraid to reach out to professionals. Get a good lawyer, get a good accountant, um, and really arm yourself with the independent people who know. I can be quite emotional, so if I have a connection with someone, I'll just like jump on their train, and that is very dangerous. So and no, like you have to be forceful with the bank. 1% of the money that gets lent to organizations goes to women owned businesses, only 1%. The banks are working on making that better, but there is bias, there's fear, there's all of these things. So I know with my bank, they weren't giving me the lending facilities I needed. And then I got motivated from a growth catalyst meeting we had about finances, and I was aware more of the different entities that are out there to support. So I demanded that they do this. They've had all the information, stop stalling, or I'm changing banks. And I was approved like the next day. Super irritating because it's stressful.
Yeah. So why do you think it has to be a fight?
Because I think that it's like so many things, when we look at diversity and equality, if they're words unless they're actioned.
Mhm.
So I think that we're still in the fight to be seen and heard.
Mm.
But what, like, I lacked the confidence. I think it wasn't, I think I finally feel like I'm in love with who I am at like 43.
Mm.
So if we don't have that experience, I never got formal education for what I'm doing. So I think that there was a barrier there, even just in my knowledge. But be empowered and don't hesitate to challenge.
So just on that note, what do you think is something that you could advise, a young female entrepreneur who's got, ideas, she's a go-getter, she's driven, she wants to go and run a company. How would you advise her to gain confidence in order to take that first step?
So there is organizations that help with this. So I took the Alberta Women Entrepreneurs Bold Leadership course,
Mm.
which helped with the different facets and understanding who your client is and the route to market. You need to spend the time to build out your business and make sure that it is viable, because as we know, most businesses don't get past the 5-year mark.
Mm.
So take the energy and the excitement, but channel that into making sure that what you have is saleable and marketable and repeatable and scalable. And through those organizations, they have consultants, they have all of the people that you need to run those questions by. Because if you just talk to your close knit, they're not really going to poke holes. They're going to be like, oh, that's a great idea, you could totally do that.
Yeah.
But and I've recently learned, I want people to conflict with me, as long as it's respectful.
Mhm.
Poke holes, tell me all the reasons why this isn't going to work, because that will make me better and stronger in
Mhm.
taking that initiative forward.
That is great advice right there, Tara. And there's a couple things you said that I think are really important. Um, and one is, don't start a business because your mom thinks it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Or your friends think, well, it's a good idea, right? But they're not, they don't know or don't poke holes, right? And you start running that. I think that's why most businesses fail, because it's just a good idea.
And
Um,
there's financial risk.
There is financial risk, absolutely. And I think what you said was really important, though, is find that person, right, who will challenge you, will poke holes. And, because what's interesting, you can have all these ideas, and instead of the person poking holes getting mad at them because they're shunning your idea, is when they poke all the holes of what's not going to work, what's left is what is.
Totally. And that is like the aha moment that we all need to have. We need people who are not just going to passively let us fail.
Yeah.
I want you to challenge me. I want you to help me rethink.
hmm Yeah, and I think that's why joining organizations that, like such as Tech or YPO or the Women's Entrepreneur WPO.
Women's Presidents Organization. Yeah, WPO.
WPO, yeah. So organizations like that, where you have other people, other perspectives who can really go in and challenge you and challenge your thinking, because that's really where you grow.
100%.
Love it. Right. Well, Tara Proskiw, Town and Country Cabinets. I loved it. This was a great conversation. I really want to thank you for many things. I mean, for your time today, your stories, being, transparent, open, and honest. But also everything that you're doing to make the world a better place. When I think about, helping people that are homeless and helping, women grow and helping, junior achievement, Rotary, like there's so many things that you're doing out there to make the world a better place. That's what this whole podcast is all about. So thank you so much for everything that you do to better the pond. And if anyone wants to find you, Tara, where do they go?
Towneco.com, TOWNECO.com, or Tara Proskiw on LinkedIn, Instagram, all those things.
All of the things, or just some of the things?
Well,
Where
some
you
of
at?
them. Uh, well, I don't do TikTok. I kind of just want to take a break from social media, but I do know how important it is for small business. So I'm hiring that out.
Very smart. So, so would you say LinkedIn, Instagram, is that kind of the go-to, the
Yeah,
connect?
an email, a
Email?
phone. Yep.
Okay, and we'll put all the stuff in the show notes so people can reach out to you if they want to talk about, whether it's going to be getting a renovation, getting new cabinets. Highly suggest they go and see you,
Thank
and
you.
and then also, but even just to connect with you on other things that you're doing, right? Because there's so many things that you have to offer.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was so fun.
Yeah, well, that's the whole idea. It's gotta be fun.
Yes.
So there we have it, folks. We had a great time today with Tara Proskiw, Town and Country Cabinets, and this is Warren Barry, and I'm flocking off to take you beyond the pond to better the pond because we're better together. Thank you so much, Tara.
Thank you.